Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk, 888-589-8840. That thing over in Israel is heating up. 3 Israelis died today because of rockets fired from the Gaza Strip by Hamas, including a pregnant woman, 25 years old. She was pregnant on her way to go to a memorial service for those that had died in a prior terrorist attack. She is one of the victims, and apparently the Syrians now control most of the border towns. Syrian jihadists, Muslims that are determined to exterminate Israel, they control all of the border towns in Syria along the border with Israel. So that thing is getting to be real serious. Well, let's go back to, and on the immigration issue, 28% of Hispanics are living in poverty. 28% of them. Now, why are you voting, 26% of you, why do you vote for a guy that's got the economy in the ditch? You can't find work. You can't find jobs. You're living in poverty. And in part, it's due to the policies of the president that we have. Under President Reagan, unemployment among Hispanics dropped about 9% during his administration. It dropped among blacks about 14% during his administration. And yet blindly, Hispanics just walk right over the cliff, voting for the guy that's going to hurt the little guy. All right, let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Joel, Columbus, Ohio. Joel, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, you bet.
I called about 2 things. First, I called about David Petraeus. I really think he's going to spill his guts because it's not like Oliver North and Ronald Reagan where they seem to get along pretty well. I think secretly Petraeus just despises Obama like Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. And I heard you talking about why Hispanics vote, talking about the other day where they talked about why Hispanics vote for Democrats is because they come from a socialist country and then they want socialism.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm not sure if you're aware of this. I don't think your call screener said you weren't aware of this, but Chris Matthews actually attacked you on that.
Oh, did he? Did he play that little video thing?
Yeah, yesterday from Right Wing Watch on his TV show.
Uh-huh.
And I was listening to Glenn Beck. They played so many times about how it's scientifically provable that Chris Matthews is the dumbest person alive. I mean, I'll finish it up after this, but he is the biggest gaffe machine that isn't a politician. I mean, he shows that he's a closet homosexual with the throw up the leg comment. He shows he's a racist by saying that, he forgot Obama was black for an hour. It was during one of Obama's speeches.
Yeah. Yeah, he has got race on the brain, and I'm sure that's what he went after me for, claiming that my comment was racism or was racist. And I was just observing, and you'll probably see this clip out there. I mean, it's getting quite a bit of circulation now in the left-wing blogosphere. Might show up on some more news outlets, who knows. But what I was talking about was Heather McDonald's research that indicates very clearly that Hispanics vote for Democrats not because of immigration, but because they like big government. That's why they vote Democrat. So her point was, if Republicans can pander on amnesty, and that's the point I was making in the clip. Now, the way they cut that thing up and what they chose, they picked the soundbite that makes me look as bad as they possibly can, but what's new? But the point I was making is, look, Hispanic immigrants, they come from a country where they are used to socialism. They're accustomed to a big government approach to social problems. Now, it's working miserably in Mexico, so they come to the United States because here's a place where they think socialism is working. They can benefit from big government programs and from welfare and from a big government safety net, and that's why they come. And so they vote, this is Heather McDonald's point, they vote Democrat because they like big government. They don't vote for Democrats because of amnesty. They vote because they like big government. And my point is Republicans are never going to be able to out-pander the Democrats on that. You're never going to be able to offer them more goodies. Here's Mark Krikorian on National Review Online indicating that 23% of households that are headed by a native-born American, 23% of them are on welfare of one kind or another. That's means-tested programs. So those are people born in America. 23% of them on welfare of one kind or another. 36% of households that are headed by a foreign-born person are on welfare. So you take all the people who live in America that were born somewhere else, and they're now in America, 36% of them are on welfare, better than a third. But if they are immigrants from Latin America, 51% of those households are on welfare, and 57% of households that are headed by a Mexican immigrant use welfare. So the point is, this is Heather McDonald's point, this is what Hispanic from Latin America, Mexico, this is what they're here for. What attracts them to America is the generous government program. So she says, look, they're going to vote for the party that's going to promise them more government programs and more benefits for living in America. And the Republicans are just never, ever going to be able to outpander them on that. So you're probably going to see references to that clip that Chris Matthews, I wasn't aware he'd done that, but the one he used last night. And it's Chris Matthews out there trying to paint me as some kind of racist, but everybody is a racist. I mean, Paul Ryan talked about the fact the urban vote was responsible for Mitt Romney's victory, and Chris Matthews says that's racist. Urban is a code word for a racist term. It's like the N-word in code, according to Chris Matthews. So, again, if we paid attention to what the left-wing media said about us and did with what we said, it just drive us absolutely crazy. 888-589-8840. What do you think General Petraeus will say tomorrow? And do you think Republicans ought to cave on extending the Bush tax cuts for the upper 2% of income earners? Let's go to JP in Tishomingo, Mississippi. JP, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
First off, about the Petraeus speaking tomorrow, I think it's kind of interesting that they're having it off-site and behind closed doors. That could or could not be an indicator, you think?
Well, yeah, and I don't know why they're doing it that way. And, I mean, they know it's going to be a circus, and, maybe there's some effort on their part to kind of protect General Petraeus from any more public humiliation. I mean, you can kind of, appreciate that. But, I mean, you talk about testimony that really ought to be available to the American people. I mean, that is it. I mean, I think it's wrong that that's behind closed doors. Well, anyway, what do you think, JP? I mean, what do you think he'll say? Will he tell the honest truth, or do you think he'll toe the party line?
Well, of course, it's purely speculation at this point. He could go either way. But here's the one I guess I call to try to make is no matter what General Petraeus says tomorrow, if he doesn't say what the left likes, they can throw it back in his face and say, well, he's already proven he can't be trusted.
Mm-hmm.
So I really believe either way, whether he speaks the truth of what we believe is possibly the truth, or if he goes the other direction, the left has him kind of where they want him anyway.
Mm. All right. Okay, JP, I appreciate that. Thank you. Next hour, I'm going to play a clip from Chuck Todd, which may explain why the Democrats are ready and prepared to throw him completely under the bus. Let's go to Greg, Richmond, Virginia. Greg, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian. In regards to what General Petraeus may or may not say, you ask what might be held over his head, and I think he's got substantial jeopardy here. Unless he goes into this thing with impunity, if he goes in there and speaks what we believe is more than likely the truth, that's in contrast and variance to what he's already testified before Congress, he could be probably held in contempt of Congress, and there could be an issue of false testimony. Previously, you're talking about a fellow who's a four-star general who's dedicated his entire life to the military. I doubt he's had a lot of chances otherwise to get out and do like a lot of us in the civilian sector and, earn some money, put money aside in other retirement programs and other such things. So that he's probably looking forward to his military retirement. It's probably a fairly substantial chunk of change. And I got a suspicion that if he faced some adverse outcome from being charged with false testimony, there's some good likelihood that they might yank his retirement.
Yeah, and that's somebody else has suggested that to me as well, that's what they're holding over his head to keep him in line and to keep him on the same page with the Obama administration is, he's out of a job. He's got no future. He's got no career. He's probably going to be completely dependent on his military pension, which would be pretty significant. It'd be probably between $200,000 and $300,000 a year for the time he's put in. He may lose a star over this. Of course, he's already retired, so I don't know, retroactively he can demote anybody. So he's probably going to get the going to get the pension that he's eligible for. I'm guessing, I don't know this stuff, but guessing that he'll get the pension that he's eligible for right now unless he goes to prison. I mean, maybe they could retroactively do something to reduce his pension or take it away. You know, this guy, the guy that was the former boss over Africom, he's the one that got busted down a rank, lost a star because of a problem with his spending account, spending too much money, lavishly, $82,000. Well, they took a star away from him, and they reduced his pension correspondingly, knocked him down to $203,000 a year. I think most people could find a way to live on that. But the point is, I mean, they did go after him, and maybe Petraeus is concerned about the same thing. And like you say, Greg, probably hasn't put a lot of money aside. You don't make a huge amount of money working in the military, even at his grade. So maybe he thinks, man, I got to find some way to secure my future, and the way to do it is to repeat the lie under oath that I told the first time. I mean, that would be interesting to me, Greg, if he perjured himself the first time, and then he feels like in order to protect his future, he's got to perjure himself again. I mean, that's kind of what you're suggesting, is going to have to perjure himself twice, and then hope that they don't come back on it.
The factor here is that even if he tells the truth, it's hard to say in this situation what would he really know, because somebody picks up the phone from Benghazi and says, "Hey, we're under attack." There's no hotline goes directly to him. He's probably got some underlings that this had to go through. So it's really hard to say what he actually did, in fact, know. I don't know that if he went in there and gave the same story he gave before, it would actually be a lie. But the thing is that it certainly sure appears that way by all objective evidence to anybody else. That's pretty much what the administration was doing, was lying.
All right, Greg, listen, I got to let you go up against the news break, but, and in response to what Greg was suggesting, I think the chances, it's almost a certainty that General Petraeus was informed right away. This was a CIA annex that was under attack. These were CIA personnel. I think there's no way in the world you wake him up in the middle of the night if that's going on. So I think General Petraeus knew immediately that the CIA annex and the consulate was under attack. And he knew from his CIA station chief it was a jihadist attack, not a mob demonstration. Back in 5.